It's Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. Today, we welcome a Super Bowl champion who's currently making waves in South Beach. He played college football at North Carolina and was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles in the 4th round of the 2017 NFL Draft. In that 2017 season, he made some clutch plays down the stretch to help the Eagles advance to the Super Bowl.
With that toughness, going for a deep ball, has a man behind the defense, it's caught for a touchdown. The rookie Mack Hollins with his first career touchdown, 64 yards.
Hollins and Philadelphia would then knock off Tom Brady and the Patriots in Super Bowl 52. He closed out this past season as a member of the Miami Dolphins. Mack Hollins joins this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN right now with your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. It's Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. We bring you the biggest guests, great analysis, and the hottest sports stories in the nation's capital and beyond. And we bring it to you live. Welcome to this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN. Here's your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson.
Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. Welcome to another live stream edition of Listen In with KNN, presented right here on our home station, Fox Sports Radio. I'm your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. So excited. All right, there we go. So excited to be joined today by none other than Mack Hollins. As you guys heard in the intro, he's a Miami Dolphins wide receiver, a 2018 Super Bowl champion, and we are going to talk the latest and greatest in football and all of the great work that he is doing in the community. So without further ado, please help me welcome Mack Hollins to the show. Mack, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Kelsey. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chop it up with you for a little.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk with you too. I am going to get my video off really quick because I know.
Okay.
All right, there we go, Mack. I didn't want to leave you alone for too long.
You're good. You're good.
I'm here today too, which is perfect.
Yeah, it's awesome new. Going through that intro, I'm looking at all the different hairstyles I've had since I've been in the NFL, and it's like, what in the world? Man of many wigs.
Ones, right? Look,
yeah.
I saw you were coming on. I said, I'm going to do the curls today. I'm going to change
Yeah, live it up a little bit. Let's shine.
Big Dairy never go wrong. Speaking of which, we have a couple of things in common because hometown Rockville, Maryland. You're talking to somebody from Germantown, Maryland. So we have the Montgomery County roots.
Okay, Moco resident.
Moco is the best, right? I mean,
yeah.
You're on this show. I mean, and you're only a year younger than me, so I think it's still crazy that we didn't cross paths. But super excited to welcome on another fellow Mo County-aner. What do we call ourselves? Moco people.
The Moco gang. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure there's a term.
There's something, but so excited about that. Let's get into that. So growing up in Rockville, growing up in Montgomery County, talk about what that was like for you and how you first got into football.
Yeah, so I grew up 3 brothers, the middle brother of one that's 2.5 years older, one that's 2.5 years younger. But we always played sports. My dad played sports in college, played football in college, in the NFL. So football was always something that we kind of always did. But we played all types of sports. And then I guess I was the one that went down the football path the most. My other brothers kind of fell out of it as they got through to high school.
Yeah.
My mom will tell you that it's because I had the most fire and anger in my belly or whatever that is. And that's why football was for me.
Yeah.
But I've always enjoyed it. But I enjoy a lot of sports. I think the more you play, the better you get at your specific sport, because you can take a lot from different areas and pull it all in. But football is what's taken me the furthest, and now I'm fortunate enough to be in the NFL.
Yeah, talking about taking you the furthest, right? You're playing the National Football League. I love how Mom said, it's because you're the angriest. It's the middle child syndrome, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This, but I get it. I understand it. It's just great seeing that you took your father's roots playing football. I also know you participated in lacrosse and basketball, right?
Yeah, so lacrosse, if lacrosse was bigger, I think I may have ended up following that path, but it just doesn't really have like a big following throughout the country yet, and I think it's growing, and I think it's going to be someday, but right now it's unfortunately not as big as I wish it was. And then basketball, I'm still not the greatest shooter, admittedly, but I just like to dunk on dudes and get rebounds, and I'm like a shooter's best friend. I'll just get rebounds and dish it back out to them. So everybody that is a shooter loves playing with me. If I got a team of no shooters, we're going to get a lot of layups.
Layups work, right?
They count too. So.
And look, you're 6'4", 221 pounds. So if I'm playing pickup basketball, Mac, you are definitely on my team.
Well, I hope so.
And obviously that height and weight of yours has helped you in football, which we'll talk about. But I know going from high school, right? And then you went to also spend a grad year at Fort Union Military Academy. What was that like, right? Going from Wooten High School to now Military Academy. I'm sure that was a little bit different, right, Mac?
Yeah, it was. So when I got out of Wooten, my dad said you can either go to college or you can go to the military.
Yeah.
And I wanted to continue to play football, and I didn't get recruited out of high school. And, I ended up finding out about Fork Union and went there I think it was from like August to December, where it's just a prep year and you kind of become a better player. A lot of players had already got scholarships and their coaches didn't want them to redshirt, so they sent them there for a semester, or they needed the grades, but I just needed the recruiting. Yeah. So I got there, and actually there was a bunch of really good players that I was with that made to the NFL. I'd say most notable would be Michael Thomas from the Saints.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a pretty big name, but that's my guy. We were there. Cardell Jones. I think we had 6 guys that ended up making it in the NFL, and then a couple of them still are in. So our team was pretty stacked. To go from Wooten to there was like,
yeah,
it was pretty crazy, but ended up not even getting recruited out of there, and ended up just sending out emails to hundreds of coaches like, hey, I'm Mack Hollins and I want to play, and if you have a walk-on spot or something, and ended up getting lucky enough to go to North Carolina and get a walk on there, and look at me now.
Huge. To walk onto that North Carolina football team, I know that was prior to the 2012 season and you had redshirted, but you finished your career, Mac, as one of the top receivers in school history. So talking about your journey, going from Wooten High School, which if you know Montgomery County, I don't think about football, right? But I'm thinking of Wooten High School, and then you go to Military Academy and walk on, and then you finish your career at UNC as one of the best receivers in UNC history. Like, how does that make you feel when you just look back at your overall career?
It's great. If you were to ask me back then, I probably would have said I eventually will be, because that's just the confidence you have to have as a player. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't openly be walking around as a redshirt freshman saying I'm gonna leave this place the best receiver. But the guys that were on the team that were close to me knew that I put in a lot of work, and just like any teammate I've ever played with that's made it this far, you put in a lot of work to get to where you are, and really in any profession, the same as you've put in a lot of work to get to where you are, and it's not by accident, and nothing that I've achieved has ever been by accident. So I put in a lot of work, and I started on special teams and moved my way to offense and was able to score some touchdowns, which everybody loves. But
we all love touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm super fortunate for where I am now.
Yeah, just very well said. And I just can tell you're still so humble. Again, to walk onto that team. Also, I didn't even mention all your other stats. You earned the special teams captain role for 4 straight seasons. So you talked about leadership and just kind of knowing that confidence and your purpose. I think, that's huge. And just your career at UNC and then to get to the National Football League was pretty big. You finished your Carolina career with 81 receptions for 1,667 yards and 20 touchdowns. And yeah, you talked about people like touchdowns. Your receptions had ranked 3rd all time at UNC, Mac. You're so humble about it. Yeah, you scored a good amount of touchdowns while you were there. But it's just great to see that it transpired into the National Football League. But just, I think at UNC, when you think about it now and the guys that are there now, and, we're going through this whole COVID thing, Mac, which I do want to talk about with you. What would you say to the college football players today, just worried about their chance of getting a shot at the National Football League? What would your message be to them?
I mean, if the guys that know me, if I was to give you a real message, it was the real life, not sugarcoated. It was nobody really cares about your problems. If you're afraid of not getting seen, most likely it's because you're not at the level you need to be at. You most likely didn't prepare, and all of a sudden you're going to try to blame COVID for why you're not successful or why you're not making it. And you've had, I don't know anybody who's ever been drafted in your freshman or sophomore year in college, since it's not allowed. So if it was COVID in your freshman or sophomore year, it doesn't matter because you can't get drafted anyway. So you got other years to prove it. If it's your junior year, you could have got drafted, but now you still have a senior year. And if it's your senior year, you had 3 years to get to the point you are where coaches and teams should have already been able to see you, and your senior year is really just boosting your stats. It might shift where people go, but it's shifting everybody. It's not just shifting you. It's not like just your team is playing. So if I were to keep it real, I'd say nobody really cares about, especially in NFL, nobody cares about your problems. Just can you produce or not?
Yeah, and let's be honest, the NFL is the next man up, right? If you can't do it, somebody else will. They'll find somebody else to do it. And I think that real advice is needed. Like, you're not at your mom and pop's house anymore, right? We can't baby you. And I think real advice is really appreciated. And just going back to your career at UNC, you got to play with another guy that's kind of been in the headlines lately, Mitch Trubisky, right? Pulled down touchdown passes from him. So I know there's a lot going on, but what would you say about him and just, what it was like to play with him?
He's the man. He's my guy. I mean, I still remember his first year before the season started. I told him if you're planning on coming back after the season, just don't bother playing. I didn't want a guy to be my quarterback that wasn't all in, that told himself, I got next year to like really prove myself if this year doesn't go well. And obviously he ended up being the second pick overall, and rightfully so. I know he gets a bad break sometimes, and that's just how this business works. If you get drafted high and somebody that got drafted behind you is doing better, then all of a sudden you're a bust. But I think he's a great quarterback, and whether he stays in Chicago or ends up somewhere else, I know he's going to be exceptional wherever he goes.
Yeah, we're all eyes definitely on Mitch. We've had a lot of news. We're looking at maybe where Deshaun will go, right? If Houston let him go. The other big news, Mac, out of Houston today, J.J. Watt, no longer a Houston Texan. What did you think when you first heard that news?
That's the business. I'd say like a week or so after the Super Bowl, you're always going to, like you said earlier, we can find somebody else. And unfortunately, you can find somebody else that's cheaper. He may not be at the same level, but he's close enough where we can get you for a tenth of the price. Yeah. So we can put money somewhere else. The NFL is a business. And,
and
if you join it, you know what you're getting into. And JJ's obviously had a great career, and I'm sure he's going to continue to have a great career. So he's not going to be out of the NFL, so he'll be fortunate enough to go somewhere else and all out there.
A very talented player. I think many eyes are looking at him. I hope many teams are looking at him because I think J.J. Watt still has it. And you mentioned the Super Bowl, Mac. We got to talk about it. We just came from it. We're still watching the boat parades, and we're hoping the Lombardi doesn't get dropped in the water. Like, we're still reeling, right, all over the stuff that's happened. But what were your thoughts overall on the game and Tom Brady getting his 7th ring?
Yeah, it was not too many people can beat him.
Yeah,
I was on a team that beat him though, so I can't ever say I lost to him in the Super Bowl. But I think it silenced a lot of people. A lot of people that said he's too old. A lot of people that said he don't have it anymore. Especially to do it against who they say is the new GOAT, and obviously Patrick is exceptional, and the things he can do is really phenomenal. But to do it against that, there couldn't have been any perfect matchup. And if it would have went the other way and Pat would have won, then they would have said Brady's washed and Pat's the new face. And it's pretty crazy the way they won and how much they won by it. It makes people question who's responsible for all the Super Bowls in New England.
Right. You sure you want to take some credit for that? Because, just seeing what Brady did. And let's be honest, Mac, no one put the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning the Super Bowl this year. I think we all love Brady, and we knew Brady would be great. But to see them do what they did, and like you said, in the style that they did it, even though I know everyone's very gung-ho over Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, like just what a game it was, especially after just the season that you all had. Because let's talk about it. I know COVID, and I want to bring this question up, COVID has obviously impacted this crazy season. I think we were all just excited, Mac, to get a Super Bowl game. We didn't know if that would happen at one point. So the question for you is, Mac, as an NFL player, how weird was the 2020 season? And without the fans giving you that motivation when you needed them, what was that like for you, Mac?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously I was in Miami, so we had like half capacity.
Yeah, y'all were a little lucky. Y'all had a little bit of people.
Yeah, we had a few fans, which I'm kind of like a fan of. My family loved because they had extra room. Obviously, I had to wear the mask, but they're like, we have so much room. Like,
you can spread out.
Yeah, I can spread out a little bit. You can hear people in the stands a little better. But yeah, it was strange. We obviously had a couple games where there was no fans, and at this level of competition, you kind of have to find a way to motivate yourself. Most players in the NFL are, intrinsically motivated. They don't need anybody else to get them going. And not to say that fans don't get us going, but it's funny to me to see how the players react when they make a play. They get all rah-rah when there's fans, and then when there's no fans, all of a sudden nobody wants to do the rah-rah stuff. And you kind of find out like a lot of the stuff that players do is purely for show. And that's funny to me, but it was definitely interesting playing some of those games where there's not as much of a swing when you get an interception. There's not that whole mood swing on the team that threw an interception sideline where, oh dang, we just threw an interception, because there's no fans to boo or cheer for the other team. So you just it's more like practice where it just flows back and forth and nobody really notices. So it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we're hoping that next season, fingers crossed, everyone, right? That fans are hopefully back there. But I think we're just glad that you all got through it. Because, I mean, Mac, was there any point in your mind, any part of the season in your mind where you thought, man, I don't know if we're going to finish the football season? Because, there were times when we saw teams I think the Ravens are the closest example here in D.C., when it seemed like, geez, like almost 20 players on the COVID-19 list. So,
yeah.
Did you ever?
There was a couple times. I think there was a couple times, especially when they had those big groups of teams not being able to really even participate in a game. Yeah. It's just, I think when it was early on and we had a couple games that got rescheduled and bye weeks get moved, and I was like, there's only so many bye weeks we can move. We're going to run out of bye weeks. So stuff doesn't keep going. But one thing I know about the NFL, they're gonna get their games in. So
it's like you said, money talks.
Yeah. Coach told us early on, like they played during World War, they'll play during.
Exactly.
I was expecting to play. Yeah, we were going to get our games in.
The game must go on. All right, we're talking about Miami, but it looks like the people want me to talk about Philadelphia with you, Mac. Mac, you're a Philly legend, he says. Still remember that touchdown on Monday Night Football, I believe, against Washington. Do you remember that moment?
Oh, yeah, that was a huge one, especially because it was against the Redskins. Or I guess the football team now. Right. But, I mean, obviously I grew up right outside D.C., and I had all my teammates or friends growing up, like we're all Redskins fans, but I was never really a Redskins fan.
How did that happen?
So my mom's from Pittsburgh, so I ended up being like more of a Steelers fan, but I just never really was a fan of anybody. I just liked watching games. But I wasn't even supposed to be in on that play, and ended up being in. And before we even snapped the ball, Alshon Jeffrey's behind me telling me, hey, this is coming to you. And I was like, I know. And then end up getting a bomb from Carson and doing my little dance, and I guess the rest is history.
Yeah, your dances kind of became a thing, right, Matt?
Yeah, the floss kind of, especially in Philly, it was. Yeah. I mean, for that whole year, it was hard to go anywhere without, which was always fun. I always loved doing it with the kids and stuff. They would come up to me on the street and just start doing it, and I would do it right with them.
And I love that you touched on that, and I'm glad we're touching on that because, Eagles are a passionate fan base. That's what we're talking about fans. Matter of fact, why don't we stay on that? How do you see the fan base kind of differing from when you played with the Eagles to Miami? I know it was different again this year with COVID, but how are the fan bases different?
I think Miami's just a different culture. It's just so filled with different things to do. Yeah. Like if you go into South Florida, our stadium is in Miami Gardens. You got the basketball stadium closer down to Miami. Our facilities up in Davie. But if you go to Philly, every stadium is within 500 yards of each other, and they all share parking lots. And the city lives for its sports, and especially the Eagles. So admittedly, it's a tough city to play in. But if you if you are a player that plays at a high level, obviously you're going to be good. But if you're somebody that works hard and puts the work in and doesn't make excuses, doesn't blame other people for why you've made mistakes or what's going on, they'll welcome you with open arms, and for life, they'll always love you. But if you come in and start saying it was this guy or it's not really me, it's hard to flip that switch back. Because once they get a bad rap about you, then you may never get out of that. So I was fortunate enough where, a lot of the fans liked me, and obviously I won a Super Bowl in that year. So it gives me extra brownie points. So I'll always be, in that Super Bowl champion list. So it's definitely different. And I haven't fully got to experience the Miami fans yet, but I'm excited. I think especially because we're winning games, and it always brings more people out. So we'll be in this next year.
Winning always helps, and like you said, there's always a season. Who knows? Maybe next year we'll be talking with you as a Super Bowl champion in Miami, right?
I hope so. That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
Speaking it into existence. As we're talking about Philadelphia, let's go to the beginning. Let's go back to draft night, right? Philadelphia Eagles drafted back in 2017, that fourth round of that draft. Talk about what that was like for you, right? To just finally see all that you worked for throughout college kind of come true into fruition.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I'm not a very emotional guy or anything like that. So I was actually upstairs, I just got out of the shower, and I was probably 5 or 10 minutes from missing the call. Because those type of things I don't want to put a damper on the draft, because I think I'm so happy that I got drafted.
Of course.
The spectacle that it is doesn't really interest me at all. I was just super excited to get a phone call from any team. Because, if you bring back to college, I walked on, no team wanted me, but to get a call that a team wanted me was really awesome. And to have just my family and brothers there, super excited for me. And also to be so close to home. It was 2 hours from my house. So the family could always come up. It was really cool. And then, obviously we won a Super Bowl, so it was even better to first year in the league to really get as high as you can get. So it was a really cool experience.
Yeah, you're part of that elite club. So many former players back, they tell me, Kelsey, I would trade all the wins in for a Super Bowl ring. The fact that you got it so early on, and now you're just trying to add another one, I think is so special. And I'm curious, since mom's from Pittsburgh, was it a problem that you got drafted by Philadelphia at all? Did she welcome that with open arms? She
was happy. At least I was in Pennsylvania, and the Steelers and Eagles didn't play too often. I think we played in one preseason game. That was it. Obviously, she would have been ecstatic if I, ended up going there. But I didn't go to the Ravens or the Bengals, Browns. So they weren't too upset.
You didn't have to be too mad.
Yeah,
it's good to know. And again, that Super Bowl member, just that first year, just to do that. Just take us back to that experience. Most of us won't ever know what it's like to feel it. I know what it is to cover one, but what's it like to get that ring and be in that confetti, and just what's that moment like? Try to visualize it for us.
Yeah. If I take it back to that year, I remember Torrey Smith telling me how different it was.
Yeah.
Because he won two. He won one in Baltimore when he was closer to my age, and then one in Philly when he was older, and just how much different it was. And at the time, I was like, yeah, whatever, Torrey. Now I really understand. I kind of took it for granted. As a player that was so young, did it my first year, you think it always is going to happen. You think you're going to be the Super Bowl, hey, I'm 1 for 1. I'll probably get 3 or 4 more, no big deal. But I haven't been back since. I haven't really been super close to getting back. And now that I look at it, it's wow, what an amazing experience that was, because I may never get it again. And there was many teammates on my team who were 15 years in the league, never been to the playoffs. And there's a lot of guys that leave the NFL without a Super Bowl ring. So I got that out of the way, but now I think I appreciate it a little bit more than that night. That night I was just screaming and yelling and didn't really soak it in, but Torrey was right. Surprise. Hopefully I can get a second one and experience it for myself.
Yeah, and shout out to Torrey Smith, another guy that has roots to this area. And then, we're talking about that. You're talking about, if you get to experience that again. Let's go to the Dolphins. Let's talk Miami now. Miami, you guys had a lot of eyes on you all this season. Of course, Tua had probably the whole league talking. So just talk about that experience, what it's like playing with him, and just overall that Miami Dolphins team, and where you guys kind of hope to hopefully accomplish and go next season. I know Super Bowl is the goal, but what do you think you learned from this season to hopefully move you forward to next season?
Yeah, I think this season was big because we have a really young team.
Yeah.
And when you have a young team, you don't really understand what regular season football is and what playoff season football is. And they really are significantly different.
Yeah.
Any player that's made it to the playoffs will tell you it's significantly different. But we learned a lot, even though we didn't make the playoffs, to where we can prepare for the playoffs. That last game versus the Bills obviously didn't go the way we wanted in any aspect, offense, defense, or special teams. But I think it taught guys a lot, myself included, about what it takes to be an elite team in this league and what it takes to be a playoff contender. And I think it's going to help a bunch when, we line it up and do it next year. And we get to that point, week 12, 13, 14, where do you want to take care of the games earlier? Like I said about college, you got to take care of the stuff earlier.
Right.
You look back and it's like, oh, if so-and-so loses and the other team ties, then we'll make it to playoffs. If you take care of your own business, you don't have to worry about that stuff. And if we would have, started the season off not losing games that we, should have won, we wouldn't have been in that scenario. And I think the younger guys will have really learned that and will carry it over to next year and be able to really emphasize winning early and taking care of business.
Yeah, I think one of our Dolphins fans is we don't even want to talk about that game.
Yeah.
I know.
I had to bring it up one time, and that's probably the last time I'll think about it.
All right, I won't mention it again. I promise. I don't want the fans to be mad or sad. Mack, another question for you. What do you make of the 17 games now next season? And would you like to play a game overseas in the UK?
I mean, I know it's a business, and they want their money. I'm not a huge fan. I do like playing games and all that, but it's a lot. 17 turns into 18, and 18 turns into
we keep going up, right?
It keeps going up, and are we going to get another bye week in there? But I'm not the guy to debate that stuff. I just, I'm lucky to have an opportunity to play. So I was, but to answer the question, I guess I'm not the biggest fan. And then about UK, I was supposed to play a game in the UK, but I ended up getting injured when I was in Philly. But hopefully I can have an opportunity to play one over there. I actually went over as a kind of an ambassador for the Eagles during the summer before the season, and got to spend a week in London, and it was really cool. It was a really great experience, and really to see the fans, how many fans there are over there. I was kind of shocked. So I'd be excited to play a game really anywhere overseas, UK, Mexico, wherever it may be, China.
We're speaking of existence NFL. That's great to see. I think the game of American football expanding, right, Mack? And having those opportunities. And I think the UK is great, Mexico, and who knows, right, where the NFL will go next. Now I know football is soccer to many, but I do see American-style football really growing globally. And that's thanks to you all. You guys keep putting great, product on the football fields. And I think we've had great football. I think overall, Mack, too, fans are pretty happy we had less flags, it looks like, this season. As a player, how do you feel? I mean, as a wide receiver, was that something you were a fan of? Are you more for nah, they were repping me, I need that flag?
It kind of goes both ways. It's if I'm watching on the sideline and our defense is out there and our defensive backs do anything, I'm like, that's not PI. I can't believe they called that. But if they do the same thing and when we're on offense, I'm like, ref, you blind? How you didn't call that? So it's really all favoritism. You do want calls because it helps you win the game, and that's your end goal. But there is a beauty in being able to just play the game and let it happen. It's tough with all the cameras they have now and how many pictures are taken after the game. We're like, how is this not? I mean, listen, if you're looking at it in real live and seeing it later on replay, everything looks like in slow motion. I mean, every play is pass interference in slow motion. So when critics are like, how did this ref miss this? It's kind of hard to see sometimes when you got 22 guys in front of you and you got to watch one section. You don't get slow-mo in your brain. So
like you said, it's harder. And then of course, if you're a fan of the team, of course you're going to call everything passing, right? You want that call, you want that game. But I appreciate you being really honest about it. And as you talk about referees, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, for you to be a football player, and we just had the first female referee, right, officiate in a Super Bowl game. Like, what does that mean to you? And what did you think of that moment?
I think it's long overdue, like a lot of things. I think as rough as 2020 was, I think it opened a lot of people's eyes to a lot of things, whether that's females in sports, racism across the country, whatever it may be. It opened a lot of people's eyes. And I think in terms of having an NFL referee that's a woman is like, if there's no standard of what, like your eyes, like whether you're a man or a woman, your eyes and your ability to judge a game don't change. So that's something that, like, I never really, I guess, understood of why a woman couldn't be a part of it.
Neither.
You know, I guess there may be physical limitations in other things, maybe like to be a player but to do something that has nothing to do with your physical ability, I guess it's just long overdue. And I think there will be more women as it goes. And I think that's so awesome.
Yeah, that's exciting. Hopefully we continue to increase more women in sports. And now we have another question from the fans. He says, great hair, man, which I agree with. I told Mack that on the beginning of the show. His question is, what has been the most challenging thing for you playing in the National Football League?
Well, I appreciate the hair compliment. It's not at its best. It has its days, as any curly-haired person would know. But I'd say the most challenging thing is to kind of keep the drive that you had when you were at your lowest or when you were trying to prove yourself. And obviously, you know, players say, hey, I'm trying to prove myself every year. And yeah, you are, but it can be easy to make a team and then be in week 4 and like your drive just isn't there. You're not putting in the same work.
Right.
If you were to stay after practice every day as a reporter or whatever and just watch from training camp all the way through to week 17 and just watch the people that are putting in extra work, the people that, like, there will be, if I had to guess, I'd say a 50% decrease from the beginning of the season to the end. And that's what happens in a lot of aspects of life. You know, it's easy to start something. It's hard to finish it. And it's easy to make excuses for yourself. And we're lucky because I'm in Miami and it's warm, but like week 14 in Philly when I was there, it's freezing cold and there's only a few people there that are doing the dunk machine or whatever they're doing to get extra work in. But as I said earlier, the work, if you put the work in, you always reap the benefit. The majority of the people that are week 15, 16, 17 putting in the work still are the guys that are starters, getting big contracts, making Pro Bowls, you know, making all pro teams. So the most difficult thing is being able to maintain that and then do it for years and years and years.
Yeah, like you said, just to keep it up. And I'm sure that's something, like you said, you have to keep up. Because when you first get in, you know, you get there, you're a rookie, you're excited, like you said, to keep that up. And that's when we see players play these. Tom Brady, we talked about him, like, you know, to have that same drive, it seems like that he had when he first comes in. It's just truly incredible. Let me, to follow up to that question, Mack, what's something that you know now that you wish you knew when you were a rookie playing in the National Football League? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, I think and this may be against what a lot of people would think, but I just feel like when I got to the NFL, I took things too seriously maybe. Not that I don't take it seriously at all, but I think I forced myself to have this diet that I hated, to do like workouts that I didn't feel like I was pushing myself, but I was taking care of my body because my body's you can't push your body anymore. You got to make sure you're healthy. But I kind of lost that joy of like eating stuff that I feel like eating and pushing myself where like I do a lift and my legs hurt after and you can't walk down the stairs because it's not hurting my body. Like it's not like I'm doing stuff that's crazy. But for I'd say like 2 or 3 years, I just took the game too seriously and stopped having fun with it. But I still put in my work. I still made sure I was at a high level. I didn't just give up on that. Like that's not what I mean by taking it seriously. So that may be a little confusing, but
I get it. Like you said, I think when you get there, you know, it's business, you know, you're very strict. And now you're like, I mean, yes, it's a job, but it's also fun, right? You're playing football. And I think, that's when you really just, and that's when I think, again, going back to Tom Brady, he said he's still having fun. And I think that's what it kind of goes back to, Mac. I think that's what we see with you. You're still having fun. And like you said, you can tell your rookie self that. I'm sure you would loosen up just a little bit and give us more of those even fun dances that you do us in Philadelphia. I'll go back to another question from the fans, and then maybe you want to talk about the great community service work that you're doing because you do so much of it. Andy Burrows wants to ask, what do NFL players do now and between the start of camp? Obviously, you need your rest, but when do you start thinking about football again? Does it ever leave the mind?
It depends on the player and how good you are at not dealing with football. So obviously, if the season ends, you don't make the playoffs, you're done in January. But if you make the Super Bowl, you're done, February 7th or whatever day the Super Bowl was. And then if you win the Super Bowl, you're done probably end of February because you're on your victory tour. And then we start back up in April, mid-April. So you really, if you make the Super Bowl, you're 2 months. If you don't make the Super Bowl, you got 4 months. So I'd say from a not make the playoffs, not make the Super Bowl, majority of guys are by February are putting in work. Some guys they'll take 2 weeks off. Some guys 1, some guys 3, whatever it is, to just completely unwind and not think about football, not think about anything, but relax and maybe sitting on a beach or maybe sitting on your couch. A lot of different ways to just make sure you're not doing anything football. And then by March, everybody's really getting back into it. And that's kind of what makes the Patriots run so much more impressive is they always had such little time because they were always so far into the playoffs. Their off seasons were always at least a month shorter than everybody else's. So they're 30 days of work behind everybody else. And 30 days of work means you can't get the rest. If you finish, you don't get to take those extra 2 weeks off because now you're 6 weeks behind everybody else. So I'd say February is kind of cranks up, and March everybody's right back to work.
Yeah, no days off in football, right? Yeah. Again, it's a job, right? It's a business, and you guys are always looking forward and ahead to the next season. And as we look ahead, Mac, something that you do that I think is so extraordinary. You do a lot of great community service, right? I know you've been working with Special Olympics in Philadelphia and Miami. You volunteered at schools. You advocated for inclusion for all. You've been considered one of the most philanthropic players in the National Football League. I mean, what does that make you feel like just to know that, you're shining not only your work on the football field, but off the football field and giving back to the community through service?
Yeah, I've always been a big person to do stuff in the community, and I've never been a fan of the camera, the guys that do the stuff only if there's a camera there or they have to make this big thing. And this is not to throw shots at people that do that because I'm sure they do other work too, but I just like the feeling that you get when you can bring smile to somebody's face that doesn't know you at all. Just because of what you do or what you've done for them or how you've helped them or how you've made them laugh or smile, whatever it may be. And Special Olympics has become really big part of my life. I've done a lot of community service in Philadelphia. We had Community Mondays, which is our off day. We always did a community service hour. But Special Olympics I've really kind of grown with, and I've been lucky enough to become a champion ambassador and really meet a lot of the athletes and learn what's going on and what needs to be done, and really how little they have compared to a regular athlete in terms of healthcare and in terms of stuff after their events. They're not getting training and stuff like that. So I've gone from being a part of Special Olympics, just seeing events, coaching flag football games, to being an advocate for change and hoping that we can make as much change as possible, because I know it's needed and it's necessary for them to, thrive. They're just having somebody with intellectual disabilities doesn't make them less of a person than me. Just like a woman isn't less than a man in the NFL being a rep.
Mm-hmm. Great analogy. I'm so happy you said that. And going off of that, you were kind of busy this week, right? You guys did your virtual Capitol Hill Day. What was that experience?
It was really cool. So obviously we grew up in the DMV, and politics is all around us. But having the opportunity to really speak on behalf of the Special Olympics to congressmen and women was really awesome, and kind of getting our voice heard. And, as an NFL player, I won't deny that I have a platform and that people love to see. Everybody loves to talk to an athlete or talk to some actor or whatever it is. And I have that opportunity and I have that platform. So I I love being able to advocate for people who can't advocate for themselves. So doing that was so awesome. And I think one thing about Special Olympics is it's something that Republicans, Democrats, you name it, you're gonna be a part of it. I don't know anybody that's ever just said, "No, Special Olympics is horrible. Like, I don't like it," because it's just, I don't know if it's possible, honestly, to meet a Special Olympics athlete or go to an event and just say it's not for me.
Yeah, you couldn't be human. I feel like if that.
Yeah, something has to be up with you.
Yeah, you have to feel it. I think that's what makes Special Olympics just such a great organization. I'm glad it brought us together for this interview. And again, it's just showing that you are more than an athlete, right? And that's why I've been pushing and propelling that message. You're more than just the game that you play. And I think I'm so happy that you delivered that message. And I know service and giving back to you is very important, giving back to youth. I know you also have a brother in the military, right?
Yeah, so my younger brother was in the Marines. He's now at Columbia. And then I have an older brother who worked at Goldman Sachs, went to Stanford. Now he's at Harvard. Yeah. So I'm just slowly trying to make my way up the totem pole. I'm in third place now, but hopefully one day I'll make it.
Catch up, right? The middle brother, like he's like catch up to the oldest.
Yeah, I got to do something.
Well, I know your parents are just very, very proud. And since you touched on growing up in the DMV, I hope you saw the Go-Go Beat reference that we played in the beginning of this show, Mac. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. I know I didn't want to fully bring in politics. We talked about how Special Olympics isn't political. But just curious, being from the area, when you saw what happened at the Capitol, Mac, what immediately was going through your mind to seeing something happen so close to your hometown?
I mean, I'm not really sure how to explain it. It's like it's a mix of not being shocked and being shocked at the same time. I guess I was shocked that it happened, not shocked at the result of what happened in the weeks following. And unfortunately, that's kind of how the country has been for a little while, and not even on a political sphere that I'm talking. I just mean in general, just as a human. There's obviously a disparity in how people are treated. White, black, brown, poor, rich. There's obviously some sort of disparity, and that kind of even rolls over to the stock market stuff that's been going on. And there's a lot of different things that obviously need to be changed, and it takes time. And that's why I try to advocate for people who can. Special Olympics is kind of my avenue right now, but maybe it'll move over to racial disparities or wealth disparities, whatever that may be, whatever my future holds.
Very, very powerful, Mack Hollins. So impressed by you. Keep up the great work. We're wishing you a very great season. I don't know if I'm allowed to cheer for the Dolphins in the DMV, right? But again, I really appreciate you coming on. Before we end, let's do a fun one. Best part about growing up in the DMV area was what, Mac?
Ooh. I mean, we had all the museums and stuff, but I never went to any of them, really, except for on field trips.
Where were your field trips to when you were growing up?
Yeah, the field trips I would always go. That's the only time I would go. And people like from out of town would always ask me, like, anytime I was in college, like, "Oh, you must have went to all like the Smithsonian all the time." I was like, to be honest with you, I didn't. I went when we were on field trips, but that's about it. I guess it's when you live close to somewhere.
You don't take advantage of it.
Yeah, you don't. You're just like
I've been there so many times. I can tell you where everything is in all the Smithsonians because I've been there.
Every time I go back, I try to go to at least one whenever I get back there. But I probably need to go to a few more.
When you're back in the area, which I don't know when you will, because if I was in Miami, I don't know how often I would be coming back. You got
it's hard to leave. It's hard to leave. I'll only leave in the summertime. I can't leave 80 degrees to go to 30 and 40 degrees. It's hard.
You missed the snow that we had here. So again, enjoy Miami, enjoy the weather, but who knows? Maybe one day we'll get you to play for the hometown team.
You never know. You never know what the future holds. So.
Mack Hollins, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you for letting me take up this time on a Friday night in Miami. Again, this is very valuable time. I understand it. Thanks again so much, and we hope to have you back on the show. And keep up the great work with Special Olympics. And best wishes to you next football season.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Have a great one.
Bye.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into the special live stream edition of Listen In With KNN. You guys just heard from Mack Hollins, Miami Dolphins wide receiver. I truly appreciate you all tuning into the show. We'll be back on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Be sure to tune into that one for the live stream version, and then back next Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you all next week. Have a great weekend, and happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Follow Kelsey on social media at The Real K Nelson. Catch episodes of Listen In with KNN on YouTube, on air at AM 1340 and 96.9 FM Fox Sports Radio, on Facebook and Twitter, and online at KelseyNicoleNelson.com. Thank you for watching this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN.